Ready?
Oh, ready?
Barcelona. Okay, I would say, and London probably will be 5. I would say Paris 6. I would say
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's got to be
yeah.
In the middle bracket.
You can like this.
It's over.
儿，好耐辛苦了。
좋아, 좋아.
It's called the women's tournament. Dale. Vale.